So, as of today, I have officially played every bit of the new Pokemon games that you possibly can. I've done everything in them that you possibly can. Except for, like, collecting an entire shiny Pokédex or something like that. And I've done most of it twice, because if you guys have been following my Let's Play, you know that I've been playing through it as two separate characters, my original OC Hero and my new OC AJ, using the fact that this game has multiple storylines as an opportunity for the two of them to exist in the same world for a while, and at some point in the future, even Hero pass the torch to AJ. That'll mean nothing to any of you who haven't watched those Let's Plays, so go do that. It's really long overall, but I'll wait. You back? No, I'm kidding. I'm going to move on pretty quick from it, because, again, that's not going to make any sense to you if you don't watch them. But I'm going to elaborate a little bit more about what I mean as we go, as just part of the review proper. Really, you should go watch them. I think they round out to be pretty good. Just saying. And overall, I really liked them. I like Pokemon games in general anyway. Pokemon's one of my special interests. And these games do a lot that past Pokemon games never did, and I think for the most part they do them really well. They take a lot of elements that were introduced in the recent Legends Arceus game and rework them to feel more in line with the standard Pokemon formula, and then they roll with them. And while I definitely feel like there's some more refinement that needs to be done, assuming that Pokemon is going to remain in more or less open world experience from this point forward, like level scaling, for example, might be something they should look into going forward. Like, I know we all love the Morrowind exploration model more than the Skyrim one, but the Skyrim one makes the game feel more open, right? That's also not going to make sense to most of you. And I feel like there needs to be some middle ground between having to walk up to every single trainer to initiate battle with them, and the old style where trainers could see you and initiate battles themselves, because I hardly battled any trainers at all in my playthrough. And going back now and actually talking to some of them in the post-game, some of them have interesting dialogue. Some of them would have filled in slots in my Pokédex with the basic level information on Pokemon I hadn't seen yet, so I could go and get their location data. And I just never did any of that. I never experienced any of that, because it didn't feel necessary. I am glad that they brought back standard EVs and IVs after Legends Arceus. Legend Arceus' model was fine, but I feel like this gives each Pokemon a more unique feel. The fact that they have their own individual values and that each Pokemon gives its own EVs when defeated. And I liked the story of this one a lot. I thought it was one of the stronger stories of the franchise. Especially, it's not really post-game, but it kind of feels post-game because it happens as a culmination of the three main story threads that you play through for most of the game experience. But the culmination of those three stories are really just the conclusion to one of them, but you'll see what I mean in a second. It felt really strong, and it went to places that Pokemon usually isn't willing to go. Like, I have no idea. Like, the anime is changing pretty fundamentally, starting with the Scarlet and Violet stuff, but I don't know how the anime is going to handle translating this, how it's going to handle adapting this. Like a character is revealed to just straight up be dead, killed by a Pokemon. And, like, that's obviously something that could happen in this world. Pokemon are dangerous creatures. But the franchise usually doesn't just explicitly state that. This is still a franchise that pretends that Pokemon eggs just appear out of nowhere, and that nothing causes them. It was also really clever, I think, that they made all the ride Pokemon abilities available through one creature that you're traveling with through the entire story. Really makes it feel like you have a bond with this thing. And the method of unlocking them as the story progresses, like, I understand why those were level locked, but, like, you could have had it be that each time you beat one, the levels of all the rest of them go up a stage. So that the next one you beat, the levels will be higher again, right? That does make sense, right? And I still think that Legends Arceus' version of these ride Pokemon abilities worked really well too. Like, each one is a thing that you, like, befriend through a little mini quest, making them also feel special. And if there's one thing I feel like this game was lacking in, it's side quests. I liked the 3 main storylines of this game, and I like how they resolved. I liked that even though the end of the main story was really only the resolution of one of those, what was it called? Path of Legends or something? The one with the Titans and Arven and his dog. The resolution of the other 2, where you helped, I guess you technically helped Nimona. You help her find a rival that's actually worthy of her, and you help Penny with her Team Star problem. Those contribute by making those characters available to help you in the final stage of Arven's story. I thought that was really cool. I thought it worked really well. But I was really hoping for, and this is one of the few times, surprisingly, in this review, where I'm going to say explicitly that I wish this game was more like Breath of the Wild. I was kind of hoping that each town you went to would have, like, quest-giving NPCs. NPCs who could give you little mini-quests and side quests, and maybe each town would have its own little storyline that you could complete, and maybe some of the steps in it weren't necessary, but some of them were, and you could choose to do the rest if you wanted to. And that there would just be side quests in general that you would get. Like maybe some Pokemon, like some evolved Pokemon or some Pokemon with heavy lore attached to them or something, wouldn't be immediately available in the wild. Maybe you would have to complete a side quest where you do something associated with their lore or their backstory in order to make them start appearing. Kind of like how in Breath of the Wild you would have to do certain side quests to get some of the shrines to appear. That felt like something that would work based on what we saw in Legends Arceus, based on what was given to us in Legends Arceus, but instead we just got the typical, you have to do something to get into the gym that has always kind of been a thing. It used to just be like battling people as you completed a puzzle, but then like Sword and Shield introduced more proper gym tests, and this game really rolled with that. And like trading, like there's some characters that want to trade Pokemon with you, and that's really the only like side questy kind of stuff in the entire game. And if I had one complaint about the game in terms of like how it's structured, not just things that I feel like they could have done differently and it might have been better, but stuff that I feel like this game genuinely needed, is it needed some sort of side quest system. I don't like, I've never really liked that you could just walk down the road in some of these newer Pokemon games and see like a Garchomp or something just chilling out there. Like, I understand that they want every Pokemon to be catchable in the wild now, just so long as you're willing to really work for it. But ever since you unlocked the post-game wild area in Sword and Shield and you started seeing fully evolved Pokemon walking around there, I've never really liked that. So tie it to some side quests. Like, you could still maybe catch the early stages of these Pokemon and then evolve them up or something. But like, tie the most interesting ones to these side quests so you have another option to find them, other than just raising them up normally. And it builds the world. It builds the world of your game. And in fact, that's actually the only other thing that I really have an issue with, but they might be fixing this with DLC. So I take this with a grain of salt. Like, I know some people don't like DLC. I don't mind it. I think it's fine. It's like getting a new episode of my favorite show after the season finale, you know? Like getting a special episode. That's how I feel about it, so I don't mind it. And so I feel like they might be fixing it with the DLC. But this region has no legendary Pokemon. Like, I don't know if you guys have noticed that. Because, I mean, there's a legendary in each of the 2 boxes for each of the 2 versions, Koraidon and Miraidon. And there's the 4 Pokemon of Ruin, or Objects of Ruin, or Ruinous Pokemon, or whatever we're calling them now. Those are legendaries too, right? But if you think about it, Koraidon and Miraidon are not legendary Pokemon. They are not spoken of in legend. Nobody but Arven, and then the people who bump into it throughout your journey because you have it, know what a Koraidon or a Miraidon is. This is not a Pokemon that has legends in universe written about it. Like, you could argue that maybe the Paradox Pokemon are this region's legendary Pokemon because they are written about, but they're written about in, like, tabloids and stuff. Nobody actually believes that they exist or ever existed, and they don't talk about them favorably. They aren't part of the lore of the region. And the Ruinous Pokemon, they're clearly legendaries from somewhere else. At the very least, the objects that spawned them, if you believe that version of their origin story, came from somewhere else, and they're themed after an entirely different region. They don't feel like the legendaries of this region, especially since apparently only one person is actually looking into their existence at all, and she's probably a bad guy. This game has no legendaries. And wouldn't it be cool if there were some areas in this game that were really hard to reach? Maybe they're tied to a side quest, like you have to be playing through a side quest or something in order to have them, like, actually activate, and you go there and you get to encounter a legendary Pokemon. Like something other than having to pull 8 stakes out of the ground to unlock a shrine. Which was fun. It was a fun little collection quest. I don't know what you would call it. Search quest. You know what I mean. It was fun to do that. I enjoyed it. There were just enough of them that it got a little frustrating sometimes, and I did have to use a guide a little bit to save time. But I enjoyed it. I got to climb some cool locations, and I got to go some cool places. But I wanted more. Like, let's think about it from a different perspective for a second. Let's talk about, like, from the perspective of the Kanto games, for example. There's a legend that deep within Victory Road, giant fiery wings are sometimes seen swooping past the field of view of trainers struggling to find their way through. And that's why most trainers turn back, because it seems too dangerous. So you're sent there to investigate, and you follow, like, I don't know, traces of ash or something. Or like, scorch marks. Or maybe you even see the Pokemon. You see its flames out of the corner of your eye a few times. And it leads you to a chamber hidden away. You have to do, like, a little mini puzzle to unlock the chamber. And there's Moltres. And you can now battle and capture Moltres. In an open world Pokemon game, I want something like that. Like, I would expect an open world version of Kanto to do something like that with its legendary bird encounters. And Scarlet and Violet don't do that, and that did disappoint me. I wasn't disappointed by much else, though. Like, I feel like there are aspects of the game that could be better. Like, even the classroom stuff I thought was fine, for the most part. Some of it was tedious, but there was some of it that you actually got some really cool stuff out of. And before anybody asks, I absolutely loved Dunsparce. I love it. Like, how many years we've been asking for more Dunsparce? And we got it. He's literally just more Dunsparce. It's like a shitpost in Pokemon form, and I adore it for that. And I don't think the design is as bad as everybody says it is either. Like, one of the things we've always complained about with Dunsparce is that it's classified as a snake in the Pokédex, but it doesn't look like a snake. Now at least it does. So stop whining about it, guys. Seriously. There are certainly things that could have been better. Like, there needs to be a battle tower. Or something. Some kind of post-game, like, practice competitive thing. Like, I know, like, what do they call League Points, LP, replace battle points in this game. So you'd have to, like, readjust the prices of all the prizes at the battle tower to account for the fact you can get LP from other things. But do that and give us a battle tower. And again, this might be something they're planning to fix in the DLC. I don't know. DLC is probably coming relatively soon. It's probably been in development since most of the way through this game's development, right? But we really needed a battle tower of some kind in the post-game. I really also wish we could rebattle the Elite Four rather than just rebattling, like, one of them in the Academy Ace tournament. Like, Sword and Shield gave us, rematches against their version of the Elite Four Challenge, and an additional tournament that we could participate in. Why can't this game do that too? But the Academy Ace tournament is still fine. It's still fun to get to fight against the faculty members that you get to meet through the classroom stuff, through the taking classes storyline, I guess you would call it. And you get to see what kind of teams they would use. That is fun, and I do enjoy that. And you can get league points from basically anywhere, and those can be used to buy basically all of the items that you would have been able to buy from something like a battle tower, just at like Delibird Presents or whatever. So it's not like I feel like we need those things. They should be here. They're parts of the formula that work. They shouldn't have been taken out. But I don't mind that they're not here either. I'll get over it. It doesn't really detract from my enjoyment of the game for me. Just like the graphics don't detract from my enjoyment of the game either. Like, they should definitely be better, and like, the glitchiness, which I experienced very little of, I've been watching some glitch compilations, that absolutely should not be here. 100%. Should not be here. But I can tell you, as someone who experienced very little of that, like, extremely little of that, the game's fun without them. And I don't mind the graphics. They could be better. But like pop-in, people were talking about pop-in's a problem. I really only notice it when I'm going really fast on Crydon, or when I'm gliding from really high up. And I would expect that in both of those situations. Like, maybe again, some people are getting it worse than I am. And like, distant terrain certainly could look better. But people keep comparing this game to Breath of the Wild. Distant terrain in Breath of the Wild didn't look great either. They just did a better job of hiding it. And maybe that's what this game's missing, but it doesn't bother me. The graphics have never bothered me in a Pokemon game. Pokemon games have never really looked great graphically. Except for like Sun and Moon, I guess, probably. And maybe Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. That's just not something I care about. I care about whether or not I'm able to become immersed in the world, and whether or not I'm able to become attached to the Pokemon and or the story that is being told through the journey. And all of those things were true here. I feel like I certainly could have become even more immersed in this world if they had done some of the things that I have talked about up to this point. But I did find this world immersive. In fact, the shape of the terrain, everything from the shape of the terrain to the placement of items, to the possible spawn locations of raid dens, to the positioning of some trainers. It inspires you, it guides you into exploring throughout the more interesting parts of the terrain of this map. Like I say, I've done everything you can do in these games, but there are still probably little smidgens of the map that I haven't been to yet. Just because I've been trying to allow my exploration of this world to unfold very naturally. And so I only really go to a place if I feel the need to go there. And then I'll allow myself a little bit of exploration time to spread out from there and just experience the world from that point out for a little while. And I don't think I've done that literally everywhere yet. And the three stories of this game, aside from as someone who likes to headcanon pre-existing characters coming into this world, aside from the fact that this allowed me to, at least in my own head, I had to complete all three storylines for both characters in order to unlock the end game and then post game content. But I can headcanon that one character only did one of these storylines and then another character did the other two. And I can tell my own stories with these characters. That's really enjoyable for me. It's not going to be as enjoyable for everybody, but it's really enjoyable for me. So I got something out of the experience because of that. And there are surely other people out there like me who enjoyed this for that same reason. I'm not that unique. And each of the three main storylines did give you something different. There was the evil team storyline, where it, like, I'd like a more traditional evil team again at some point, but it went the more sympathetic evil team like we've been getting for quite a while now, route again, and it worked pretty well. They treated it like a mystery, and it wasn't. It was supposed to be a joke that the mystery was so easy to solve it was supposed to be funny. And maybe if they had gone more the mystery route, it would be more favorably reacted to by the people playing this game. I thought it was fine. And one was the typical gym thing with the rival, the friendly rival again. Again, I'd like an asshole rival again at some point, but as far as friendly rivals go, Nimona is one of the better ones. And then one dealt with the lore of this world a little bit, that being Arven's, and it was the one that tugs on your heartstrings the most, because his dog is literally dying and you're helping him heal his dog. Like, who's not going to be affected by that at least a little bit? So they each give you their own experience. Each one fills one of the niches that you expect a Pokemon game to fill, like emotional resonance wise, right? I think that if they wanted to improve this, like even if you always end up in the same place in each storyline, if they're going to do this multiple storyline thing in future games, give me some choices that actually impact it. They don't impact the end game again. Like that's going to kind of suck. It's going to feel like a Bethesda game at that point. But like, give me some choices that actually impact the journey to get there, the specific sequence of events in the journey to get there, aside from just getting to choose which gym I fight next or which star base I raid after the last one, you know? But they were good, they were strong, and they each offered something different. I liked that all of them were here. Like, there are obviously things about this game that could be improved. Like, maybe it would have more side quests, and the graphics would certainly be better if crunch wasn't a thing. Like, can we just stop hating on Game Freak as a whole and start talking about the fact that, well, there are certainly some negative aspects to the company. Like, for the most part, anything wrong with these games stems from the fact that the developers are given unreasonable completion deadlines for these projects. And that is a bad thing. Crunch is a bad thing. But that we can also talk about crunch being a bad thing and try to change it while still acknowledging the value found in the art created by these people. Because I'll tell you, if I had to work under crunch, under these crunch conditions that a lot of video game developers have to deal with, and then someone just shit on my art on principle, I'd feel pretty terrible about it. So I'd feel like the only good thing that came out of that horrible experience of mine is being undervalued for no good reason. Because it is possible to talk about how bad crunch is and still value art at the same time. So can we just get on board with that mode of thinking and move forward from here? And keeping that in mind, I really liked these games. I want Pokemon games in the future to be better than this, and I feel like they still can be much better. But this is certainly a step in the direction I wanted. It's weird, though, if you allow me to get a little sentimental for a minute. Just like with the Pokemon anime changing very radically, dropping Ash Ketchum, or what's his name, Satoshi in the Japanese, as the protagonist, it feels like these games mark a new genesis for the games, for the franchise of Pokemon games. Like a new start. This is the red and blue of the new Pokemon era. And they're going to build on this formula from here. And while this formula does, like, there's enough here to recognize this as a Pokemon game, aside from just the catching and battling Pokemon aspect, these also feel very different. These are very different from the games I grew up with. And so just like with the anime, I'm excited to see what comes next. I'm also kind of sad to lose what came before. There was a certain comfort found in the fact that basically every Pokemon game was just the same thing, but with a different coat of paint. And I certainly feel like the franchise is good enough that it deserves to evolve, and I want to see it evolve. It kind of makes me sad that we're never going to get a traditional Pokemon game ever again. But I do feel like this game is strong enough that it warrants you playing through it if you're a fan of this franchise. Maybe not if you're not. Like, I don't know that this is the Pokemon game that's going to convert you to being a Pokemon fan. But I think it's a good Pokemon game. I think it's one of the better Pokemon games that they've ever released, in fact. I haven't played through Violet. I've only played through Scarlet twice. But, I mean, they're versions of Pokemon. There's going to be some different Pokemon in them. The professors are different this time. But they're the same game. So if you're a Pokemon fan and you haven't picked these up for one reason or another, like, remain upset about the things that the games could have done better. And remain upset about the fact that Game Freak treats their employees like discardable robots. But, like, pick up the games. Like, if you don't want to give Game Freak, if you don't want to give Nintendo full price, wait until they go on sale. Pick them up. Or, like, I don't know. I would never condone this, but you could probably pirate them off the internet and play them with an emulator. Like, from what I hear, again, I wouldn't know from experience, but I hear that a couple of the Switch emulators are actually getting pretty good. Like, this is coming from someone who absolutely has not started a playthrough of Pokemon Violet using an emulator. But I have heard that. I mean, I want you, if you care about this franchise at all, to experience this art. I want you to experience it. Because I feel like it is valuable enough that you should. I'm not going to give the game a number rating. I feel like I've grown beyond numerically rating things arbitrarily. But this one's good. It's not my favorite of the franchise or anything, but it's good, and I'll probably play through it a few more times. I can tell you what I won't be doing though, and if they want to never include something like this ever again, that's perfectly fine with me. But I will not be getting 3-segment to Dunsparce and Family of 3 Mousehold ever again. Ever again. At least Family of 3 Mousehold can be found in raids. That stupid frickin' 3-segment to Dunsparce, though, so frickin' annoying. Just the most annoying Pokemon to get. Why did I ever commit to completing a living dex in this game, knowing that thing existed? I am so stupid. I did get it eventually, though, so I can't complain. And I'm probably gonna show. I don't know. Maybe I won't. My completed living dex on screen here. If I do, note that while Family of 3 Mousehold isn't here, I got it on my other save. I'm gonna move it over with Home once Home support's added. Also, tip: if you're looking for dusk stones and shiny stones, because those are some of the few that the internet isn't talking about where to find them very much. They're just like, oh, go to the auction in Puerto Marinada. Don't go to the auction in Puerto Marinada. They only show up extremely rarely there, and you only get like one at a time. No, go to Area 0. I mean, like, admittedly, this is post-game, but you get some, like, pre-post game. So, in the main part of the game, anyway. But if you need more, like if you are trying to complete a living dex, and you want every form of Florges, for example, like me, go to Area 0, and as you're heading down, I think it's between Research Station 1 and Research Station 2, there's like an earthen shelf that you can go underneath it. Most of the sparkly items through there are rare berries and dusk stones and shiny stones. Just a tip for you. AJ's tips. That's the only one you're ever going to get. Oh no, one more. Use the new Wooper. Its evolution is amazing. Okay, there you go, that's it. What do you guys think of these games? If you have played them, do you agree with me that these are fun and valuable games with fun storylines that could have been done better but are still good as they are? Or do you have a different opinion on them? I'd really genuinely like to know. So let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video, share it with anyone else you think would enjoy my content, subscribe if you haven't. You can also check out links to all of my social medias, those will be in the video description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.